Rise of the Ronin is a somewhat mysterious upcoming PS5 exclusive from Team Ninja, the studio behind Nioh and Wolong Fallen Dynasty. I say it's somewhat mysterious because despite being announced over a year ago and long being rumoured for a Q1 2024 release date, details regarding this much anticipated game have been scarce. Rise of the Ronin was initially revealed during a PlayStation State of Play in September 2022 with a fairly brief trailer. In a corresponding blog post, director and president of Team Ninja Fumihiko Yasuda described the game as an action RPG which takes you on an epic and unfettered journey as a Ronin at the dawn of a new era in Japan. He elaborates that Rise of the Ronin is a combat-focused open-world action RPG that takes place in Japan at a time of great change. It is the very end of a 300-year-long Edo period, commonly known as Bakumatsu. Set in the late 19th century, Japan is facing the darkest of times as it struggles with its oppressive rulers and deadly diseases, while Western influence permeates as civil war continues to rage between the Tokugawa shogunate and the anti-shogunate factions. Here in this time of mayhem, you embody a Ronin character, a warrior bound to no master and free to make choices of its own. Rise of the Ronin is a new Team Ninja experience that will immerse you in an historically inspired world while bringing together its renowned combat action with katanas and the likes, with the new firearm weaponry that depicts the unique personality of its time period. So basically, Rise of the Ronin is an action RPG set in old-timey Japan where you play as a samurai. And that's pretty much all we kind of knew about it for the longest time. In the aforementioned trailer, which was captured in engine, there are a few shots of traversal and combat which look cool, but there's so little it's difficult to really glean much from them. In July 2023, some further limited information about the game did come to light through some leaks, which suggested that it would be a mix of Assassin's Creed, Ghost of Tsushima and Dark Souls. This is also where the rumour of a Q1 2024 release date originated from, but none of this was ever actually confirmed by Team Ninja or PlayStation, and the silence remained. Although it's strange, it's not inconsistent with PlayStation's strategy of late, which is basically to say nothing at all, to the extent that we don't really have any idea what their exclusive game slate looks like beyond the beginning of 2024. However, finally some new details have been forthcoming. This was firstly via a new trailer which was shown at the Game Awards. It contains a little more gameplay than we've seen before, and again, what it shows does look cool, but with this alone, it remains difficult to get much of a feel for what the game actually is, beyond just, that it's a generic samurai actiony game. There are some more signs of some potentially fun traversal mechanics. We see some footage of the player character using a glider and a grappling hook. Most notably though, this trailer confirms the previous rumours regarding the release date to be true by announcing that the game will come out on March 22nd, 2024. Following this trailer, Team Ninja then gave an interview to Game Informer where they eked out some more information on what we can expect. Here they reveal that the game will actually be open world and will have a choice-based narrative, both of which are firsts for Team Ninja. In terms of combat, the game is described as being like Nioh, with there being a variety of different weapons and styles. Parrying is referenced as being an important skill, and there is mention of assassinations, which to me perhaps suggests a Sekiro influence. I haven't played it, but I know if we think of Nioh as Team Ninja's attempt at Dark Souls, I'm pretty sure Wolong Fallen Dynasty was kind of their love letter to Sekiro, so I wonder if this game might be some combination of the two. It was confirmed that the game would have a Souls-like experience system where you lose progress on death unless you make it back to where you died and recover your dropped currency. However, there would also be a permanent XP system on top of this. They don't straight up say that it's a Souls-like game, and in the time since this interview it has been confirmed that the game's going to have multiple difficulty levels, which Souls-like games don't typically do, but it seems like it's at least pulling elements from that genre, so I'll be interested to see how difficult it actually is. Perhaps frustratingly, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any hands-on preview coverage for the game, with there being no mention of any members of the press having actually played it, and it only being a few months away from release at this point. Overall, I'm not really sure how I feel about this one, to be honest. I think the setting and the story sound really cool. I like the idea of playing as a Ronin during this tumultuous period in Japanese history where they come into meaningful contact with a sort of modern quote-unquote Western world for the first time. I have seen some conversation around how there's so many sort of historical Asian games in development at the moment that there's some concern there might be some fatigue on that front. For me personally, I don't think this is an issue, as frankly I haven't actually gotten to most of the games that people are referring to when they're talking about that, and as someone who generally doesn't play a lot of games on release anyway and puts a lot of shit on my backlog to get to later. It's not really an issue for me. But I suppose if you are someone who must play, you know, the newest games as they come out, then I suppose I could understand some frustration at the amount of kind of similar games in development at the moment. So with all that in mind, I really want to be excited for Rise of the Ronin, particularly someone who is a massive Soulsborne fan and really tried to like Nioh. Ultimately, its level-based structure was just too much of a turn-off for me. I like to play these games, and most games to be honest, by min-maxing, you know, grinding, leveling up, upgrading my weapons as far as possible, basically just making sure my characters are as powerful as they can be. And the way Nioh restricted you in this regard with its level-based format just ultimately made me bounce off it. However, with Rise of the Ronin being open world, I'm hoping this is going to be my gateway into becoming a Team Ninja fan like so many already are. With that being said though, I think there's so little known about this game and I still have so many questions about it that I'm finding it difficult to get overly excited. You know, for example, when they say it's an RPG, what exactly does that mean? Like, is there a loot system similar to Nioh, or are we dealing with like a more Dark Souls type scenario where there might only be one version of certain weapons in the world and you have to go to a specific place to find it? Are there numbered stats like vigor and strength and dexterity that you have to level up to increase your health and weapon damage? Is there a fucking stamina bar that you need to manage when you're in combat? Or is it more of an Assassin's Creed Ghost of Tsushima like skill tree type system we're facing, and you can just sort of wail on enemies as much as you want? Or is it some amalgamation of the two? Another thing I'm curious about is how do quests work? They talk in their interview about side quests and things like that, and I'm wondering, again, is it a Ubisoft style, there's literally a map with loads of question marks on it, and then you go and talk to an NPC and they put another marker on your map where the thing you need to get to complete the quest is? Or is it more nebulous and more about exploration, closer to an Elden Ring, for example? I suspect the former, because the way they sort of talk about quests loosely kind of hints at more of a traditional Ubisoft style. If that's the case, I'm curious how they blend that with the progression you'd normally see in a Souls game, you know, going bonfire to bonfire, slowly advancing through the world towards the next boss kind of thing. You know, the way Elden Ring does this is by doing away with that traditional quest style system, if you like, making the open world about exploration and discovery, and then when you eventually get to the castle, I think they call them legacy dungeons in Elden Ring, it becomes that more traditional Dark Souls experience. But I'm not really sure how that would jive with a traditional quest system that has you, you know, fast travelling about the map, going question mark to question mark, you know, talking to NPCs, killing 10 fucking boars or whatever. And then of course there's the question mark over the combat. They can compare it to Nioh and make Sekiro references all they want, but until someone actually gets their hands on it and plays it, it's all just rhetoric. That being said, given Team Ninja's previous success in this area, I'm inclined to have some faith in them. So I'm hoping for the best, and I'm expecting that this is probably going to be a game that speaks to me, but absent any actual hands-on preview coverage, I think I'll be waiting for reviews on this one, and I would caution others to do the same.